In September 2017, Z Business received a call from a man named Ravi. Ravi's grandfather had just told him that he had bought 20,000 shares of MRF back in 1990. But unfortunately, a few years after that, he ended up being paralyzed and unable to do anything about these shares. He told his grandson Ravi about these shares only recently, and Ravi had no idea what the value of these shares was and what to do with them. Because unlike the digital shares that we can view today on apps like Zerodha, these shares were in the form of physical share certificates, as was the norm back in 1990. After telling Ravi how he can redeem his shares through these physical certificates, the news reporter casually told him that, hey dude, just FYI, the value of a single MRF share is Rs 65,000 as of today. So if you have 20,000 shares, their value right now is over 150 crore rupees. That's right. In 1990, the 20,000 shares that his grandfather had purchased at just Rs 350 per share had now turned into Rs 150 crores at Rs 65,000 per share. And what's more is that while we do not know what Ravi did with those shares after that, but if he had held those shares again from 2017 to 2024, the value of that investment would be Rs 310 crores right now. And this is a true story of how MRF has generated wealth for itself as well as its shareholders by starting from scratch and turning into the largest tire maker in India. But how did MRF Tyres end up commanding a 30% production market share in India? And why is each MRF share worth over Rs 1,35,000, the highest price among the top 500 companies of India? To find out the answers, I dug deep into MRF Tyres' history and strategy to understand how it was able to establish this dominance. And that took me to the start of MRF before Indian independence back in 1946. K.K. Maman Mapillai, the founder of MRF, was a man from a wealthy business family in Kerala. When he was young, his father used to own a bank and a newspaper. But after a series of unfortunate events, the princely state of Travancore sent his father to jail for 2 years and also seized all of their family's assets, shutting down their bank and newspaper. After his father got arrested, Maman was struggling to make ends meet. Necessity is the mother of all inventions, and in 1946, he set up a small toy balloon manufacturing unit in a shed in Madras, selling these balloons under the brand name of Madras Rubber Factory. That's right, the biggest tire manufacturer in India today initially sold balloons and had nothing to do with tires at all. Initially, Maman had no money to afford salesmen, and he himself went around persuading people and making sales. But his hard work paid off and the situation eventually improved. And by 1952, Madras Rubber Factory started looking for different verticals that it could expand into, and tires was something that instantly caught the eye of Mammon. At this time, all the major tire manufacturers in India were foreign companies such as Dunlop and Firestone. This was because tire manufacturing required high capital as well as technical expertise, both of which India did not have until the 1960s. So Mammon knew that it would be tough for him to directly start manufacturing tires, and what he instead focused on was the manufacturing of tire tread rubber. Tread rubber is basically a long strip of rubber that looks something like this. Tread patterns are the most critical component of the tire, since they provide traction and ensure that the tire is safe and stable across different terrains. But this tread wears out as we use the tires, making tires look something like this. So these smooth tires need replacement. If you have made it this far, please subscribe to my channel. I promise my content will add value for you. Moving on. Now, one way is to obviously go and buy a new tire, but that is expensive. So an alternate way is to simply retread this tire and make it as good as new. You can do this with tread rubber in a fairly simple process that looks something like this. Unlike the actual tire, tread rubber requires less capital and technical expertise to manufacture, and in 1952, Madras Rubber Factory decided to foray into this segment. Maman's principle was always the same: to provide the best quality in all of its products, whether they are balloons or tires. And this principle saw him capture 50% of the tread rubber market by 1956, a span of just 4 years. With such a runaway success, it was a logical step for the company to move on to tire manufacturing. But there was one problem. We simply did not know how to do it. Tire manufacturing was a research-intensive process and required serious technical knowledge. The reason why all these foreign companies had monopolized tires in India was simply because we were unable to produce them on our own. So Mammon took the only option that was left to him. He changed the name of his company from Madras Rubber Factory to MRF, and in 1961 established a manufacturing plant through a technical collaboration with a US company named Mansfield Tyres. Similar to how we saw in my video on Bajaj Auto, where Rahul Bajaj leveraged the technical expertise of Piaggio in a production masterstroke, this proved to be the turning point that would change the face of tire manufacturing in India forever. You see, the Indian government at this time was well aware of their shortcomings, and they desperately wanted to replace imports and break the monopolies of these foreign tire companies. So MRF received extremely strong support from the government in its efforts to become the first tire manufacturer in India. To give you an example, in 1961, the first tire from this manufacturing plant was released by Mr. K. Kamraj, then the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, as a show of support from the government. Then in 1963, Pandit Nehru laid the foundation stone of the first rubber research center in India that was set up by MRF. MRF grew steadily thanks to all this support, eventually becoming the first Indian company to export tires to the US in 1967. But how did MRF manage to go from the first tire exporter in India to the multi-billion-dollar company that it is today? Well, firstly, it was due to MRF's unwavering commitment to product quality and innovation. MRF followed the first rubber research center in India with a series of firsts. In 1971, MRF was one of the first Indian companies to manufacture nylon tires for passenger cars in India. Before this, tires used to be made of cotton fabric, which was not durable and resulted in shorter lifespan of tires. So MRF pioneered the switch to nylon fabric, which gave it a significant edge over its competitors. While cotton fabric tires usually lasted for about 30,000 kilometers, nylon fabric could last as long as 60,000 kilometers. And suddenly, MRF tires had become the most value for money and reliable option in the market. And this continued over the next decades, as they launched the Nilo Grip series for two-wheelers in 1985, and even expanded into different verticals by launching fun school toys and muscle flex conveyor belts in 1989. And just like that, the company had crossed a turnover of $1 billion by 2007. But MRF could not have reached where it is today if it was not for its extremely aggressive and clever marketing strategy over the years. See, from early on, with its growing success and expansion, MRF understood the importance of building a strong brand image. And this understanding led to one of the most iconic marketing strategies in Indian business history. In the 1980s, MRF made a strategic move by venturing into sports sponsorships, a domain that was largely unexplored by other Indian companies at the time. And they started with cricket, a sport that was quickly turning into a religion in India. And MRF's game-changing breakthrough in sports sponsorship came in the 1990s, when they signed on the legendary Sachin Tendulkar to be their brand ambassador. Tendulkar, who was rising to prominence as one of the world's greatest batsmen, started carrying the MRF logo on his bat. And this association created a lasting impact on the Indian audience, who literally revered Tendulkar as a god. The MRF brand became synonymous with cricket and excellence, deeply ingraining itself in the psyche of the Indian consumer. And MRF has continued to double down on this strategy in the following years, featuring on the bats of famous cricketers such as Brian Lara, Steve Waugh, A.B. de Villiers, and obviously India's beloved Virat Kohli. But it did not end at cricket. MRF also ventured into motorsports, a move that also aligned well with its core product, which was tires. In 1997, MRF ventured into F3 cars for the first time, and followed it up by sponsoring several racing events, including the immensely popular MRF Challenge, an open-wheel motorsport formula based in India. This was a really big deal, since this was India's first and only FIA-approved and inscribed international racing series. So yet another instance of MRF pioneering something and taking India to the global stage. And the involvement in motorsports went beyond mere sponsorship. MRF started investing in developing high-performance racing tires, showcasing their technical expertise and commitment to quality. This foray into high-performance tire development further solidified MRF's reputation as a leader in tire technology. So a combination of quality, innovation, and strategic marketing helped MRF establish a strong brand presence not just in India but across the globe. By 2020, MRF had expanded its operations to more than 65 countries across the world, making it a global player in the tire industry. And this international presence also diversified its revenue streams, making the company more resilient to domestic market fluctuations. But one question still remains. Why is its share price so high? Well, that is because share price alone is not an indicator of the size or value of a company. The true indicator of the size or value of a company is its market capitalization, also known as market cap. So the price of a single share is determined by dividing the total market cap of a company by the number of shares that the particular company has issued. A company can control the number of shares it issues as per its choice. So while ITC has a market cap of 589,000 crore rupees, it has currently issued about 1,240 crore shares in the market, which means that the value of a single share is rupees 475. However, MRF has a lower market cap of 58,000 crore rupees, but has currently issued just 42 lakh shares in the market, which means that even though the overall value of MRF as a company is much below ITC, the value of a single share is much higher at 1,38,000 rupees a share. To control the price of their shares and make sure that it does not go too high, companies usually split their shares, which keeps the cost per share under control. If you want to read more about this, I've added a link in the description. And if you have made it this far, please hit the subscribe button and follow me on LinkedIn. That link is also in the description below. Until I see you in the next video, goodbye.